Hello and welcome to M3 Live. My name is Malcolm Travers. Male Media Mind is a grassroots organization dedicated to uplifting and unifying our community through dialogue, insight, creativity, and knowledge. And every Wednesday at 7 p.m., I invite my friends to help me break down topics that could use an extra perspective, more experience. They're usually around relationships, spirituality, mental health, and just like interpersonal communication, things like that. So if you find any of that interesting, please leave us a comment and question while we discuss. We'll get to them as soon as we can. Let me introduce you to the panel. Today, we got the talented Mr. Drayden joining us from Atlanta. What's going on, Greg?
Hello, colors. How are you?
Doing well, Negroes. And you can, of course, join Greg as he breaks down his Susbox, reviews the week, and all that good stuff on the Saturday sit down at noon. So always a good time.
I need to make a public service announcement about my Susbox real quick. If I pick your topic out of my Susbox, I do not reveal from which it came. So I'm sorry if you see yourself in the whatever the topic is.
Oh, right.
But if you send it, it ain't you. Okay. So
right.
if I have touched a nerve, party people, live better. That's all I can say. Because if that sounds you did not submit it to the Susbox, check with yourself or your therapist.
And joining us from Tijuana, 60 leagues below the sea, with a sewing machine and a cat. Swag for life. What's going on, Swag?
Gang signs.
I know, right? Gang signs in Tijuana. Who knew?
And of course, you can catch all the shenanigans on Tuesday nights at 7. Yeah, it was something. And we sometimes get into serious stuff. There was actually some serious stuff too. It was pretty good. Always enjoy it. And of course, from those Instagram streets, from the capital of Georgia, in the red shorts,
Hammerhead himself.
Hammer, don't hurt him. Hammer.
Mr. Wed Mar himself. You can catch him on the Double J Chronicles. What's going on, John?
I refuse to be persecuted.
Hammer. They put me.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hey, JJ.
Good. Glad to have you. And of course, coming up from Texas, from those podcasting streets, and of course, from the Diggler Digest every Thursday at 7 p.m. What's going on, Cream?
Howdy, friends. Howdy.
Glad to have you. So I was thinking about it today. It took me a while to come up with these topics, and I realized that some of these topics are heavy, and I just wanted to say thank you, all of you, for humoring me for some of these topics. Some of these are like some of the heaviest ones, but I will end the show with a reel of funny videos and at least one call from the Lovecast. But I'm going to start with this, just talking about being smart, and maybe sometimes how there's a stigma to being smart as a kid. I wonder if any of you resonate with you on this.
I think a lot of you may not realize that the reason a lot of people don't want to learn anything new is because to them, learning new things is trauma. So many people grew up in families where it was considered a bad thing to learn new things. It was bad to think critically about things. We know this because we are familiar with this phrase, don't get smart with me. Many people, when they were kids, if they were even remotely challenging of their authority figures, or if they talked back at all, they were called smart. And that was not a good thing. Smart was what got you punished. If you were someone who behaved in an arrogant way and you had an answer for everything, you were called a smart aleck. Not to mention the fact that we are weighed down with so many stereotypes of what you look like, what you sound like, how you act when you are smart, that there are people who are desperately afraid of looking smart in any way. So, as a result, we have people who grow up not learning anything new. They've learned that's the safest thing. And the only way they are ever going to learn anything new ever again is if they learn that it is safe to learn. As long as they're afraid of saying things like, yeah, I changed my mind, or hey, I learned something, this is where they're gonna stay.
I was going to say that when I was younger, I think I had to embrace being smart because I didn't know how not to be. Plus, I was blind and I had Coke bottle glasses. from a very young age. So it was just like I fit the stereotype of what a nerd looked like. I think also with being blind, I wasn't very fashionable, like I just kind of was out like a thumb, and I was also incredibly tall for my age when I was younger, much more so even than now. So I just kind of stood out. There was no, I tried not to be what they said, a smart aleck. I tried not to correct people like the grammar police. That was kind of dumb. Like when someone says something wrong, let it go. I've never been that person who needed to correct someone. Because I don't like it when people do that to me. So I know a little better than that. But what do you think about that? The idea of people, one of the reasons why people are so reticent of learning new things is because there's a culture of punishing people who act smart, think that they're too good for something. I think there's like, there's some truth to that.
Well, thank God. I think I grew up with a different trope because the older you were, my mom would be like, I could read it about 3 or 4. My mother would be like, "Go and get the dictionary, let them read for you," and I would have to read in front of the whole family. You know what I mean? It'd be like, or oh my God, I learned my multiplication tables, and she was so proud. But all the shit she was, I have 4 siblings.
Yeah.
5 of us all together. And so she was that way with all of us. And she was just so tickled when we learned something. She would, undoubtedly call us smart. My father would be like, "Oh, y'all kids are so smart." It was so. Now, outside of the house, because later in high school, I took AP courses and stuff like that. So there were not a lot of people of color in those classes. And you gravitated to the 3 black people that were in the AP courses with you. You're like, "Hey, we're going to stick together like glue." But even then, I was a cool dude, so I kind of walked that fine line of, Now, John, you're a smart guy. Have you always been a astute, or?
Yeah. Have you ever been punished for being smart?
Well, anytime my mother or father said don't get smart with me, it was because I was being sassy. It wasn't because I was being the other way. It was because I was being sassy. Even when don't be a smart aleck, it was because I was being sassy. So I can't really relate too much, but
being a sassy.
but I mean, yeah, my parents with me and my brother learned something. It wasn't a party thrown, but they would act more proud that their child learned something, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was lucky in that regard too. I think my mother and my grandmother were both teachers, and I think
oh yeah, definitely. So it was more celebrated.
Right.
What about you? Was it celebrated? No, because your head is not big as smart as you're a smart man. All of you are smart men in your own way.
I think it's also like you also have the affect of being smart as well. I think that's the other thing. It's like you can be smart and people not know it. But Swag, you do have just the affect of a smart person. Like you.
I would take that as a compliment. But yeah, I mean, it was the same. It was the same way with me. I mean, I learned to read at an early age, so it's kind of like. I remember being on the bus and kids would like pull out a book and they're like, "What's this word? What's this word?" And I knew what the words were. And so yeah, but I think because of being black, also, I think a lot of our families look at that as like, wow, this is somebody who's going to go to college. This is somebody who might be president of the United States someday. That boy is smart. That boy is real smart. So for me, it was not any kind of like. I didn't want to learn anything because I was too, it wasn't like a punishment to learn something new. It was just, it was an opportunity
I think we all made a point. I think it's a little different for us as black people of color.
Yeah, because I was going to say the one thing that she didn't bring race into that at all. She was just thinking about in our culture in general. But one of the things that came up for me in my, school age, especially when I moved from Chicago to Georgia, was the idea of being smart as being white. And it just because I didn't have a Southern accent when I moved here, I kind of stood out for that. And then you pronounce all of your words just the way they're supposed to be. So like that,
Right.
kind of it's funny. You're like,
You should
Like,
have
which then leads into being labeled as like you must
Yeah.
be white.
uppity,
I
or
know.
mixed,
Somebody black speaks like that.
And
right.
I'd have to say my parents, they didn't push us, but they made sure certain things were in the home. Like we had the World Book Encyclopedia, we had animal flashcards, we had science flashcards. I had a chemistry set. My brother had a microscope. So
Yeah.
they subliminally put those things in the home for us to pick it up. And I mean, because that World Book Encyclopedia helped me with a whole lot of history and history term papers and science reports and things like
Yeah.
that. So
I love encyclopedias. Before the internet, I mean, my God. I think the first time I got one of those, was it Expedia, where they had the encyclopedia on a CD-ROM? Like that was my
yeah, I
first
remember that. I remember that.
connection to computers. I was like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah, I remember that.
But
I remember, like, my mother would always be like, don't say stupid stuff. You know what I mean? Just
yeah.
be careful. Now, Queen, I'm glad you're back so you can answer the question. Did you hear what the woman said? She was like, sometimes people don't want to learn new stuff because they were ostracized for learning new stuff. And we all kind of collect.
God, here he come.
Oh, the baby. So they were kind of ostracized for learning new stuff. And then I think we all collectively had the experience of growing up in Black households and well-being when you got new information that was celebrated. Because I could read about 3. So my mother would be like, "Well, pull out the dictionary and be like, go on, read for him, baby, do it." A little magic, little magic. Go on, read. Little magic can read. So how was that handled in your household? Was it celebrated to be smart? Were you also?
Oh yeah, most definitely. My mom was valedictorian of her senior class.
Oh
so,
gosh. Yes.
So it was really important. It was, you're gonna go to school, you're gonna get an education. I mean, as much as she loved sports, and sports was a big thing in our house, being academically successful was very important.
Your mother is a sports chick?
Oh, child, yeah, I think she's kind of a lesbian on low key, but she loved. She was a great basketball player. She could hoop with the boys, with the best of them. She used to tell my brother when he would play football, I have forgotten more about football than you will ever know. Because when they would start to argue about
my kind of broad, right? I want to hang out with your mom. I like her. Wow.
Yeah.
Mama was out there posting up, wasn't she?
She was. Yeah.
Box up, box up, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
That was a really
aggressive, very aggressive. Yes.
Now the thing is, and also in my home is, my mother is a college graduate, but my father didn't get as far as the 9th grade. But you would have never known it if you talked to him.
Right.
So
again,
yeah.
She still, I bet you she was a smart woman, and smart women choose smart men. That's just I don't care how far he went in traditional school. She knew he was smart. You know what I'm saying? She knows. Absolutely, because the same thing with my father. My mother.
Well, I guess it didn't hurt that he was Hammerhead Senior, so I guess that
didn't hurt.
That's funny.
You got it honestly.
You inherit that. I like it.
We're going to talk a little bit about some of that later. I'm going to go ahead and move on, see if we have any comments or questions.
We have a couple of them. Good evening, sir. D says, good evening, good evening.
Oh, my God.
Demons Exist says, pronouncing words correctly lead being called proper or acting white. Example.
Yeah.
Library,
I was called proper.
Library. Yeah, and I don't know. I just didn't. My mother was like, they celebrated, saying words wrong, you were considered ignorant. So, yeah,
right. Yeah, I unconsciously developed the ability to adapt to where I was. Like I remember my brother one time when we would be around certain people, he'd be like, "Why are you talking different? Why you know?" And I didn't even realize I was doing it, but you know how you be calling your siblings out. And
He's a hater.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he had to do that.
I could do that too, but there was a level because I can't go all the way down there with some folk. I ain't talking like that. No.
I'll give you an example. For me, it was when I was pulling through the drive-through of a Dairy Queen or something, and I had someone else on the phone, and I, just made my order, and it said, "Why did you talk like that?" I said, "So they can understand me." Honestly, it wasn't conscious. Like, I just know that if I didn't, talk their language, I wasn't going to get my order right.
But honestly, you have to be careful too of what your audience is because they'll think you're talking down to them.
Yeah, no. Yeah. But the truth is, like, I don't think I did it consciously though. It wasn't really brought to my attention until a third party actually, But I was just trying to speak in such a way that they could hear me.
I got it just the other day. The woman called about fucking donuts, and she was like, "I think you're being condescending." And I'm simply telling you're not listening, ma'am.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You ain't gotta use all your $5 words." I said that I have a master's degree. They're $10 words, man.
Well, sorry, you can't afford them.
Yeah, she's gonna label my words correctly. We're gonna have this conversation. And I think, Malcolm, that is true. But Malcolm, you've been like big baby Huey since you were a kid. Like, you were a big kid. You were small. That's crazy. That is just crazy.
Yeah. Well, I got a $10 topic for you today. It took me a while to actually think about this idea. And it's sort of like a philosophical idea. This idea of control and resistance that creates this thing they call a hell loop. And the idea, it finds its way in many different areas, but they're going to actually talk about this in terms of like Christian theology, but it actually, actually pertains to a lot of different aspects of different systems. Capitalism is probably the best other example. But I'm going to play it right here. We'll talk about it.
Let's do a thought experiment to help us understand why systems that cause suffering are so difficult to change. Everywhere you look, the same pattern plays out. The oppressed become the oppressors. The revolutionaries become the enforcers. The saviors become the persecutors. The search for truth becomes dogma. This is the hell loop, a self-replicating system that ensures every attempt to escape simply feeds the machine. I'm going to start with the Christian myth that's at the core of much of Western culture, the duality of God and Satan. God is the all-powerful, all-knowing Father who created humans. He says he loves them, but also acts in ways that do not seem loving. Satan was God's favorite angel, originally named Lucifer, who decided he would rebel against God and attempt to overthrow him. He failed and was cast out of heaven into hell. He also acts as the corruptive force of evil in the mortal world, tempting people into sin, which are actions, beliefs, and modalities that take humans further from the dictates of God and the reward of eternal salvation. This mythic system postulates God and Satan as opposites. One represents light and the other darkness. One saves, the other damns. God, as traditionally conceived, is beyond existential discomfort. Omnipotence means no fear of loss. Omnipresence means no isolation. Eternity means no death, no urgency, and importantly, no grasping for meaning. If God is truly transcendent, then God does not experience meaning. Meaning is irrelevant at that scale. Satan, however, is the prototype of existential discomfort. He was cast out, so he knows loss, exile, alienation. He's finite, so he experiences time and change. He suffers from his own intellect, so he understands paradox and contradiction. He craves dominion, but is trapped, so he wants control, but can't have it. He's aware of meaning, yet eternally separated from it. This isn't just a moralistic story. It's a symbolic model of how power structures reinforce themselves through illusion. It's an allegory of the hell loop itself. In this model, God and Satan are not separate forces, but two sides of a single recursive structure, a Mobius strip of authority and rebellion. The God of the text is tyrannical, absolute, and demands total submission. This mirrors how power operates in the human world. Satan is the figure who refuses submission, but in doing so, locks himself into a cycle of self-imposed suffering, mirroring humanity's own existential crisis. Together, they form a self-sustaining system where God demands control, Satan rebels, Satan is punished, this justifies God's authority, the cycle repeats. If humans and Satan are caught in the same loop, then the God they describe is not actually God, but a projection of their own imprisonment. The real God, or the actual infinite, as you will, is not engaged in this petty drama at all. If God is the authoritarian force of control, then Satan is the figure he resists, but in a way that guarantees he remains subordinate. He is both the scapegoat that justifies why the structure must remain intact, and the reflection of humanity itself, trapped in a self-reinforcing feedback loop. The God-Satan relationship is actually just a metaphor for the self-replicating logic of power and suffering. God, as described in the text, is not God, but the mechanism of control. Satan is not the enemy of God, but the one who keeps the game running by ensuring rebellion is still within the frame of the system. Meaning is not to be found inside this cycle, but outside of it entirely. Thus, this story was never about a theological battle. It was about the architecture of control itself. Every power structure in human history has survived by convincing people of a single fundamental falsehood, that meaning is something that you must earn. That enlightenment, salvation, freedom, whatever the system promises, is always just out of reach, always on the other side of struggle, obedience, suffering, or sacrifice. This is the core mechanism of the hell loop. Religion tells you salvation is only for the worthy. Capitalism tells you wealth is only for the hardest workers. Science tells you truth is only for the most rational minds. Nationalism tells you belonging is only for the right kind of people. And spirituality tells you awakening is only for the most enlightened. The system tells you to run toward the prize, but what it never tells you is there is no finish line. There's no point at which the gods of the system declare you finally free. The structure is designed to ensure that every victory feeds the next level of control. Now, this is the really tricky part because while it's simple, this realization is extremely difficult to accept, let alone to implement. The meaning we crave feels like it should have a resolution, a final test, a moment where it all clicks, but the actual answer is just stop struggling, you're already here, which is deeply, fundamentally unsatisfying.
Yeah. So I remember, think about this idea of the hell loop in terms of capitalism and desire is that, I don't know, I never did watch the show Mad Men, but I got the idea that most of it is about getting people to desire products, right? Like advertising, and capitalism in general is just to keep you wanting something, whether you really want it or if you don't. And, part of it is that you can never truly be satisfied or capitalism doesn't work, right? Once you obtain something, there's got to be something else that you can obtain, and there is also this sort of loop that occurs in economics. Like right now, we were just talking about how rich people really don't care about recessions because once you reach a nadir of economic activity and people start losing their jobs and companies start failing, that's when a lot of capitalists move in and start acquiring new companies and making new investments. And so in a certain regard, they want recessions. They want recessions that are not permanent. When you get into depressions, like recessions that don't turn around, that's when you start asking governments for help and influencing, monetary policy and things like that. But the truth is, inflation and recessions are things that we want. Even though in the process, average everyday people are turning about, losing their jobs, being displaced, having to move. There's a lot of evidence that a recession is coming in the sense that, basic standards of living are just impossible for some people, and social services are getting cut, thus making it even more difficult when those people inevitably lose their jobs, which then enforces like a cycle of violence and crime that causes people to become even more conservative and actually, reinforce their original impulse to cut more. And then there's usually a rock bottom, and then there's this virtuous cycle that goes up. But it's all, in a sense, a method of control called capitalism. Unfortunately, these loops are themselves methods of control, and stepping out of them is a nice idea. But as people who want to survive, I think methods of control are necessary for survival. I think the sort of theological idea of God and Satan that she was using, I thought was super fascinating in the sense that was sort of omnipresent, omnibeneficent, all-powerful being would really want your adulation and desire and control. And they were just saying that, the God in this sort of hell loop is a projection of our own ideas of what a controlling system is. And in fact, one of the reasons these stories are so powerful is because they mirror a lot of the realities that we live in every day, just like our systems of control of government and of corporations. We understand that Amazon is evil, and yet, I love that overnight delivery. It's anyway.
Yeah, no, I think, well, first of all, she lost a long time ago, so hopefully I get this right. Honestly, I mean, she it was like white woman hellscape, if you will. But anyway, so I think it's just like religion in general. I think at some point the educated mind comes to realize that religion was created to control the slaves and create a narrative. I just finished reading this book the day God noticed I was black, and she goes into everything from the Book of Ruth to Beyonce, and the interesting thing about this is she it's a black black lady author. We'll be discussing the book in the future shows, whatever. But she discusses how the patriarchy is used. The dichotomy of heaven and hell and devils up is still used to this day to control, especially black women and queer people. And it's just, from what I heard from what she was saying, it's just a continuation of let me give you the story of heaven and hell. So I had an interesting enough encounter with when I was at the doctor's, I don't know, a few months ago, and I don't know if this man was out of his mind or not, cream. He just came up to me. People just say stuff to me, honestly. It's what I'll tell you. People just say anything to me. He came to me in the doctor's office. He says, I died a couple of days ago. I was like, really? And I indulged him. My assistant was like, why are you talking to him? Like, what are you doing? And so I was like, well, tell me what happened. And he was like, it ain't no damn light like everybody else's. And I thought that was just so interesting. He was like, I think I'm going to hell. At the end of the 5 minutes or whatever, he says, I think I'm going to hell. I said, well, you going to change what you're living now? He says, hell no. I'm having a good time. I was like, normally you hear the construct of the bright light and the goodness. He was like, I am having a good time, and if I'm going to hell, I'm going to chance it. Fuck it, let's go. I think, but lastly, real quick, I just think it's a religion truly is designed to control people. I hang on to it because I think we need something as human beings, especially in times like this, to believe in. So I believe in that thing, but my educated mind tells me, you don't know you sleep till you wake up. So if you're where you'll never wake up. Yeah.
But I think the machine also needs to be fed. I mean, that's part of it. It's a system of control, but it's also a machine that drives us to want to be controlled or to find comfort in that sort of control.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I follow along with it because it's comfortable. Yeah. I mean, it's that thing that, okay, well, fuck it. Ain't got nothing else to do from 10:30 to 12 on Sunday. Let's go.
Because one of my, opening, revelations, I guess, of that idea of, lack of control is the crazy guy on the MARTA, as I'm traveling. And this guy is like, it's all a system of control. They're just trying to get you to behave the way they want you to. And I was like, yeah, they are. I get that you've escaped the system because you can't see the world as a part of the system, but like I wouldn't want to leave it either. Like part of it is a certain amount of comfort, and that's where we live at as a educated person, is to become aware of the systems of control and still submit to it in a certain way, to not allow that sort of existential depression, in a sense, take a hold of you, to realize like there is no escape, because escape is the guy on the MARTA bus.
Not you can have people that are atheists that share that same view.
But that's what I'm saying. I have a different topic on that as well. But there's a system of control for atheists as well.
Well, but then moreover, our government's supposed to be, separation of church and state. But thank you, white people, yet again. We're going to be a Christian nation. No, we're supposed to be a nation that allows people to be Christian or whomever else they want to be. Yeah. And that, I think, with everything that's going on, and this was one of those things that kind of happened over time, I think that's the thing that's pissing me off the most, is people don't realize that we're losing freedom of choice. It's not about race, and it's not about sexual orientation. It's a very slippery slope when you start to lose, when a group of people feel like you have to think like I think. and you have to feel what I feel. Now we have to be careful of that. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
We're all saying that black people stand, but we are standing to the house. I'm so proud of y'all that y'all ain't being goaded by this craziness, but we have to be careful because yet and still we are still Americans, and we don't want to lose that freedom of choice, and that's what the Democrats and those who care about democracy was trying to tell you.
You also have to remind yourself not to become the thing you hate as well in the process of fighting it. Because the true believer becomes the dogmatist eventually. You know, if you take it too far.
The slave becomes I think it was said in what was it with Denzel this year? It was what movie they did part 2 to
Gladiator.
Gladiator. Yeah. He said something in Gladiator. He says the slave does not desire to be free. The slave desires to be a master of his own slaves. And that's a quote from Cicero. And that is so true. I forgot about that quote actually. When I saw, who the hell is this? Who the hell at the door? Boy, you better announce yourself when you come knocking.
You know what?
Hey,
what's going on, Jeff?
Hey.
Who the hell is that knocking at the door? Go ahead.
You sounded like somebody's grandma when you just said that.
Do you know what time it is?
We'll see if we have any comments, and we'll go on to our next topic.
We don't.
No
new comments.
Yeah, we were talking about hell loops. We'll talk about it later, but I want to talk a little bit about that very idea of needing to have other people believe what you believe. So yeah, let's talk about that.
I can tell how secure you are in your truth based on how you respond to mine. Because if I just tell you about, what's going on in my life or decisions I've made, and you just start huffing and puffing about your life and how I'm wrong or what I should be doing or the real meaning to life, you're not locked in. You're not locked in. And it's okay. Like, you could keep trying to convince me of your truth, and it's cool, but I know in your heart of hearts, you can't really accept your truth unless I also accept your truth. Because as long as I'm happy doing what I'm doing, you're like, how is that possible? Because you're really wondering, like, am I really locked in? How many of us know people who are like married who just, they not happy, but man, they be pushing it on people. People who maybe go out and party all the time, and they're just always trying to convince everybody else, oh, you soft, you're not drinking, da, da, da. Bro. Hang out with some people who are locked into the life they're living, and they're just a good time to be around. They're open, they're honest, they ask questions, they care. Because it's like, there's nothing to prove. But man, you get around some people who are,
I've been that person in the past, and unfortunately, I still have a bit of insecurities about my beliefs and thoughts about it. But I recognize that idea of, trying to get someone to see or hear, that thing that we talked about, like when you're in an argument with someone and says, I want you to understand what I'm trying to tell you. And like, no, you're trying to control them. You're trying to get them. You're trying to, because you believe that if they heard what you were saying, that they would, see it from your point of view, or at least, stop trying to push their point of view on you. But if you're secure in yourself, you don't need someone else to hear what you said. Like, you can present it. If they don't want to hear it, it's gonna become like the Peanuts parents, wah, wah. And
now y'all tell me this. Now, where the fuck was y'all at 15 years ago when I got to fighting with bitches because you don't hear what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And it's true. Like, I have got into physical altercation with people. Motherfucker, you listening to me? You know what I'm saying? I jingle my keys like John. I jingle my keys. They ignore me. You try
to jingle the keys.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know how John jingles his keys when he's ready to go. I don't understand. So maybe you all can answer for me. I don't know, as you get older, you get more experience and just to let it go, or do you just give less fucks? I think I'm on the less fuck side of it. Like, I don't care to convince you anymore. Like, I don't
think it's automatic. I think it's from experiences.
Well, let me tell you. So I had to call a friend of mine called me the other day, and I had to call Jeffrey because he needed something that Jeffrey has, and so because of his life circumstances, he could not call Jeffrey directly. And I was like, you know what? Make this your last time for making me your intermediary, because what you needed was a very sensitive thing, right? And so then he made it about me, and that he was like, "Oh, you know, how can you not help a brother out?" No, motherfucker, this is taking time out of my day to to facilitate these things for you. And so he really got, after he came to pick it up, he was like indignant about the shit. He was like, "Oh, that's fucked up. You're not trying to help." No, you got what you needed. Now I don't have to understand you from this point on. I'm just telling you, do not do it again. Like I will not be your Harry Tubman Underground Railroad to all things. You know what I'm saying? No,
Yeah.
right. I'm like, no, because when it's the, hey friend, fuck it. I'm gonna tell y'all what it was. So, because this is important. So I have a friend of mine who is married to a woman who has sex with men who does not consider himself gay, right? So he had exposed himself to an STD. So he watches the show. We always say, "Hey, if you can get the doxy prep." So I had the middle of the fucking day, Jeffrey. Hey, friend. Oh, friend, listen. You have any doxy prep over there? He was like, "Yeah," and I had to be clear. It's not me. It's not for me. I had to be clear.
Yeah,
I did, because I would get a speech, right? I would get a speech. Now you know better, Drake. Come on now, you too old. I had to be clear. I'm like, nah, I'm running the intermediary for this nigga, and before his wife wants some dick, he gotta make sure he ain't, doing everything. So all Jeffrey said was okay, and I sent an Uber over there, because I don't know if y'all ever used like Uber. They have a pickup service, so I paid for the shit, right? Out of the money I don't have. So this motherfucker is like, okay, you did all these things, Malcolm, right? I mean, like, I had to call Jeffrey. I paid for the Uber to pick the shit up. By the time you got here, you have made me such a villain in your story because I did not care to understand, as someone who was previously married, you should not be doing that. And I don't know, my Catholic ass was going to judge the fuck out of you. Judging the fuck out of you. And then I had to call my friend and ask for things for you. And so, long story short, back on topic, I did not care to convince him of why I was upset. At that point, I was like, nigga, you got what you need. Kick rocks. Next time you feel like you're burning, call somebody else.
Not burning.
But that's what it was. He wanted doxy prep. I even had to ask. Let me tell you, my old ass had to even ask Jeffrey what the fuck what does it do. So Jeffrey is always one to educate John. You know what I'm saying? So
I know what it is.
I know, but I have no need for it. So he was like, people are using the Greg instead of condoms. I was like, instead of condoms? He was like, yeah. I was like,
he was shocked. It was funny. Oh, it was so funny.
Like, it's also they're looking like an asshole. I'm like, instead of condoms? Wow. So, and then, like, I was so angry. Like, I had to go through so much to get this for him. And then, like, you and I'm just like, because it has to come with a speech and some consequences if you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not just going to give you this. You know what I mean? No, Malcolm, seriously, because my thing is, you need to be careful. You know what I mean? You need to be careful. If I got to be drug into this, you get the speech, motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, if I had to stop what I'm doing, stop working, and just pull everything to the side. Now the question I asked him, I was standing right here in this office. I was like, what if my people didn't have what you needed? You know what I mean? Then you have to go to the clinic. Like the outbreak monkey, you're gonna have to go to the clinic and tell the white people what happened. You know what I mean? They're gonna mark you down in the book because you're gonna have to go to the Fulton County health department. They're gonna put you down in the book, and they're gonna call your house every 3 months after that to make sure you having safe sex, because that doxy prep from them, because I called down there, I was gonna make them go. That doxy prep comes with something, but so you can't just get off for free. Now, Malcolm, back to what you said. I have no need at this age, this ripe young age, this tender age of 51, about to be 52, of convincing nobody of shit like that. I'm out of that. You know what I mean? So do you still feel the need? I guess the question is, and I'm gonna ask Jeffrey this too. Do you still feel the need at your tender age to convince people your way?
I think I do, but I understand the futility of it. So I sort of remind myself, like, yeah, it feels good for someone to echo my beliefs back to me. Yeah, like who doesn't like that? It's just like music or whatever. Like it's a great, like, oh yeah, we're simpatico, whatever. But I don't need you to be, and more and more so. So in fact, I sort of realized that the more difficult the belief, the more complex, the more unusual, the less likely you are to be able to handle it anyway. So, like, I just sort of
John, we know how you feel about that. You I can imagine you on the lake right now. You could care less to convince somebody to convince them how you feel.
Oh, I thought you were saying something about Doxy and me. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Back up.
It was the look for me, John.
No.
John was like, hold up.
Right. That's one time he would have drove.
You crossing the line.
That's one time he would have drove his ass in ready to fight me on my front porch.
With some Vaseline.
Right. I know you in there, motherfucker. I see you at the desk right there. Don't come make me. I mean, because you always seem very, I don't really care what you think. Now, in Green, have you been that person? Have you always felt the need to convince people to see things your way?
It's complicated, right? Because it really depends on the situation. Like, when you were younger, you weren't really in control of your emotions. You hear me, see me, know what I'm talking about, but now it's like, bitch, it's whatever now. But like, it's different. Like at work, when you feel passionate about an idea that you think a direction we should go with a plan, that's a different kind of frustration. And you're like, when people aren't understanding what you're trying to communicate, and then how far do you go with that? And then in your personal life, it's a little different. Like, we can agree to disagree, long as you're not telling me this is what I'm thinking and you're telling me the wrong thing. Like, I've been had that with well, what you believe is this is what you're saying. No, bitch, that's not what I'm saying. What I said was like, so it's complicated.
I said what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I was going to say, I think it also, like you said, it comes with age, because, like you said, as a younger person, I'm realizing a lot of that was a lot of the insecurities and things that we grow up with, and the fact that when we're younger, we seek acceptance. So we are trying to convince others that, look, I'm right. I'm the light. Look at me. But through a whole lot of personal growth and therapy, I ain't nobody's God. So you don't have to listen to me at the end of the day. Now, you said, like Cream said, at work, that's different. And I tell my staff all the time, this is not a democracy. Sometimes this is a dictatorship.
Right.
And we're going to govern ourselves accordingly. But personally, I don't feel a need anymore. I don't care. Like, you don't like it. I love it still. It doesn't matter to me, because I've just learned. And for me, I think it's the indicator for me really has been lately with just watching this MAGA movement, and the fact that you can't tell them anything. Like, they literally believe that they're transgender mice out here. I'm not arguing with you. That does not make any sense.
Is that for real? They believe that?
Yeah, there was science studies about transitioning between sexes.
I thought that was like, what's that site, Malcolm, with the comedy? What is it?
The Onion.
I thought it was like the onion. Yeah.
No.
It's a very common anti-intellectual stance to talk about studies.
I was reading on that shit. They were talking about transgenics, where they were changing mice's skin to mimic human skin, and organs and shit, so they could test cancer research on that shit with the mice. But I was reading someone had mentioned it in a comment on this article talking about Trump and that bullshit. Then somebody in the comments said, "But what's the difference, bitch? What?" That's what I was like. Bitch, don't fucking argue with these hoes. They don't want to know, bitch. They don't want to
know. They don't. And that is thank you for bringing this up, because I think that is the most important thing.
Right.
When a bitch don't want to know. They just don't want to know. Like, I had to realize that all the campaign season, around the end, I had to give in and say, ignorance is bliss, and they just don't.
Even within friendships, though, you learn that. Like, I'm always been the voice of reason in my friend circles, and I used to get utterly frustrated with my friends because I would be like, I'm the friend that'd be like, okay, don't go across the bridge because you see the sign that says bridge out. They still go across the bridge, and now I'm mad. They ain't mad. They just sit up there looking like a fool, but I'm pissed off, and I had to have a moment with that and be like, well, bitch, why you mad? If they want to go and stand on the bridge, let them. So I stopped being that friend, and I tell my friends now, like, I literally ask, what are you trying to solicit from me? Is it an opinion, or you just want to show to the crowd?
Yeah, they should know by now when they dial your digits what they gonna get.
They should. Some don't.
Know what they gonna get. I ain't gonna call for nothing but the truth. That's like calling Cream Diggler. That's like calling John. You know, John ain't gonna do nothing but be like, "Well, bitch, that's your fault." Fucking bitch, this is why I call, bitch. Fucking, this is why I call. Go ahead. Go ahead, kick me in the face, Michael. Go ahead and finish doing it. Just kick. Be like, bitch, you dumb. It's your fault.
Let's see if we have any comments or questions real quick.
Just one.
Not the outbreak monkey. Yeah, the outbreak monkey. That was his.
So I was sharing a few of the links earlier. I forgot to do that at the top of the show, but something else that you had actually mentioned. We do have a book club going on, and it's going to be for the rest of the month. We're reading The Day God Saw Me as Black. We're gonna have a discussion before the end of the month, but I'm reading a book right now that's got me shook. It's got me shook, and I can't read it. But we'll see if we put that in the book club. But if you become a patron, we'll help you get a copy of the book, and we'll talk about it when we can. We might do a podcast episode or a live stream, whatever. We hadn't really decided on how. Maybe I'll incorporate it into this live stream. We'll see. But I've been enjoying reading a lot of books recently, and I just thought I'd share it with you guys. But anyway, I got another topic, which is also on this idea of getting people to believe what you believe, but it's basically talking about the difference between trust and faith, trying to differentiate between religion and science. We'll talk about that after I play this.
Hi, I got a question. Do you think that there's a difference between trust and faith? And doesn't matter. If you and I believe in things like black holes and supernovas and things that science communicators tell us exist, is that different than us believing something that a clergy member tells us? Because the thing is, there is a difference between trust and faith. And I'm not making this video to come after people's religious beliefs. This is something that's really important that we can all articulate because of how adversarial a lot of people are becoming towards science. And a lot of people think that science and religion are two sometimes conflicting belief systems because they're both very complicated and complex. And a lot of what you and I know about the two of them, it comes from other people. It comes from science communicators and religious leaders and books and articles and journals and devotionals and things like that. And sharing information between people is somewhat based in trust. Trust is a belief that is based off previous experience or verifiable evidence. And when someone is telling you something, you're thinking, okay, in the past, how accurate and reliable has this person or source been? And so it feels like these two belief systems are both based in trust, and therefore we can transpose properties between trust and faith. But science and religion are not competing belief systems because science isn't a belief system at all. And I know that everyone has heard this, but I want to make sure you actually understand. Science doesn't start with explanation. Science is just process. How do you find the explanation? And that process is based off of things that are observable and testable and replicable and falsifiable. That means anything that you hear from a science communicator, you can understand, you can verify, you can look up the process that we got there. You can look up the theories and discoveries that have led to this discovery, and you can test hypotheses at home. The whole thing is verifiable and it's replicable. For my neurodivergent audience, it's like bottom-up thinking. Whereas religion kind of takes the opposite approach. It's like top-down, and it starts with, here's the explanation, and we justify the explanation with faith. Because faith is a conviction in a belief, sometimes in the face of insufficient or contradictory evidence. It is not replicable. It is not objectively verifiable. And again, I'm not saying this to come after religion by any means. I think there's a time and place for both science and religion. They both have benefits and drawbacks. There's a value to both of them. But it's to say that we should understand the difference between these two things, because there are some people who find the things that we have discovered through the scientific process to be getting in their way, blocking their agenda. And they're able to weaponize a group of people who don't recognize the difference between trust and faith or science and religion and say, hey, see how this thing's in your way too? Let's pick and choose what we believe, or let's just throw the whole thing out. And that's why we are where we are today.
You know, so there's this book that's called The Death of Expertise, and kind of comes at it from a different angle, talking about how, you know, a lot of times people don't trust experts anymore. And on the same token, we're getting our information from very incredulous sources, say your favorite content creators online, and they're not really going and checking back original sources. But one of the main things is, you know, obviously for, you know, the idea of trust in science and, you know, being able to replicate your information is important when it comes to definitely things like medicine. I was going to say, I just finished reading this book. I'm not really recommending this for the book club. I just finished reading this book called Bad Blood. It was about Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. What's so fascinating about this book is this idea that Elizabeth Holmes is this, you know, very wealthy white woman who starts a company in Silicon Valley, and she is going to do these blood tests that, you know, she believes that she can figure out how to do blood tests from just a prick from your finger instead of having to do venous draws from your arm or something. And she was going to do like 90 something blood tests from a single drop of blood. And all these people would tell her, you know, you can't really do that. Like the reason, you know, they would tell her all the reasons you can't do it, you know, just like the physical properties of blood, how it coagulates or whatever, and how much blood you need, and how the tests use up certain chemicals. You know, it has to have so many chemical reactions, and when you do that, the blood gets used up. But she had this sort of, I don't know, faith, I guess you could say, that she could figure out how to do this, right? No matter how many times people told her, like, this is not possible, you can't do this, you know, she's just like, I'm just gonna find someone else who will, you know. And there's something very, I don't know, exciting about that. Also, like, you know, inspiring someone who doesn't take no for an answer. You know, they go to the next person. Where she went wrong is that she kind of took this to a point of being delusional, right? She started thinking, you know, started lying, you know, then she started believing her own lies. Like, she could have just kept lying and taking investors' money. The company itself was at some point evaluated at $6 billion, and she owned half the company. So she herself was sitting on $3 billion in stock from a lie, basically, because all the blood tests that she was doing on these machines were just regular ass blood tests. And she was just able to create this sort of, you know, very intricate subterfuge to not keep anyone in the dark. You know, everyone was sort of siloed in their own little departments. And so very few people actually saw the whole picture, that they were just lying about these machines, you know. But there is something to be said about her belief in herself, that she could figure it out, that she could lie long enough until she figured out how to get it done, and this is something that a lot of people in business would do in areas where it didn't have consequences. That's the only problem, is that with a blood test, if it's inaccurate, kills people. Like if someone says like you need this amount of iron in your blood or whatever, and it's is used to regulate how much medicine you're supposed to be taking, and the blood test is inaccurate, you literally die. You literally kill someone. Right. So yeah, she was fucking killing people with these inaccurate blood tests and hiding the fact that they were inaccurate. And
wait, people actually died?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They were in Walgreens machines in California and Arizona, like hundreds of them. And their accuracy was basically their error rate was around 30%, which is 10 times what a normal blood test error rate would be. And they were somehow able to hide those results because of how they wowed people. They had all these like very rich people on the board of their company. You had Henry Kissinger was on the board of this company. You know what I'm saying?
I remember that.
Yeah. Fucking Rupert Murdoch was on the board of it. You just had these super powerhouse people who believe, that she conned into thinking that this was the next step in human evolution or something. Shit, like, because they were thinking, no, well, what if you could do these blood tests at home and you could regulate people's medication just by pressing, your finger in it every morning and all these other sorts of things. And, somehow, through the power of pretty and whiteness.
I love it.
It's true though. I know there's a movie from HBO. I think it's called The Inventor. I think, yeah. I haven't seen the movie, but the book is fucking amazing because at the end of the day, it was really just her belief in herself that just went off the rails, But when you're dealing with things and facts and physical reality, blood tests or, like people's health, that shit is not acceptable. Like you can't test people's blood on a dream. I'm sorry. It's just not gonna work. You can't sell people, because in Silicon Valley, you could do this for like certain things like the humane AI pin, that thing, or the rabbit,
Right.
AI. It doesn't matter because it's not gonna get anyone killed. You can lie about it. You say, yeah, you're gonna be able to, just call an Uber by saying talk to it and it's gonna do it. And it's like, no, it didn't do that, and it's all But anyway, I was going to bring it back to the previous topic, but I forgot what we were talking about. Basically, just the idea that people who have these beliefs, the Trumpsters, for instance, they're not interested in believing in facts, right? They're coming at it from a sense of faith in their dear leader or whatever, and they're just looking for mistakes. The truth is, though, I've seen leftists do the same thing.
Oh yeah. When Joe Biden was falling asleep and shit, I was like, "Oh shit, girl! I'm putting my hand in the sand on this one, girl. Like, we can't afford to be truthful and honest about this. We need to deny. We need to ignore. Yes, I mean,
Keep propping him up. Keep propping him up.
Keep propping him up. It's too dangerous of a time to be taking the high road, bitch. Low. Okay.
We gonna burn that nigga. Go on, prop him up.
I know. Right? I saw one where it was like Trump was just had a misstatement. He was talking about how the 2020 election was fixed, but he was actually also confusing himself and talking about the 2024 election. And he said something about like how he fixed the 2024 election. It was a shame, whatever. And people jumped on it. And it was like, yeah, he said that he fixed the 2024 election, right? He said the words.
Right.
It's clear from the way that he said it that he was talking about the 2020 election and lying about how it was fixed, right?
Right.
But the leftists try to jump on it and say, like, he just admitted that he fixed the election, Elon Musk and Starlink, like, because they want to believe that. It's hard to accept the fact that there just wasn't enough support for the Democrats.
Right.
Even as amazing as Kamala was, which I still think she's an amazing person, right? Like a very just charismatic person. At some point, she stepped into an impossible situation and did something I don't think a lot of people have been able to, but that at the same time it wasn't enough, and it's not going to be enough. It was, I was just thinking about how demographic changes, to the Senate and to the electoral map, and it's going to even be more difficult for the next Democratic president nominee. But that's hard to accept. Saying that Elon somehow had something to do with it when he, Starlink, his satellite internet company, which is not connected to any sort of election, anything. The physical aspect of him donating through a super PAC $250 million, and that money was not supposed to be coordinated with a presidential campaign when clearly there was coordination. That's illegal. No one's going to prosecute that.
No.
That's election rigging in some ways, but I don't know. Because he was literally like, I don't know. I'm just saying we do the same thing. That's what I'm saying.
I'll say this. I agree. It happens on both sides. My thing though is that at least I can say, and as I will always consider myself a bleeding heart liberal. I don't care what anybody thinks. But my issue becomes when you are questioning, as you would say, like with this sound science, like what we see now going on with the measles.
Yeah. Oh my God.
The fact that we eradicated an illness, there is scientific proof to prove it. We have the data. We are able to show where, like, there was nobody dying from the measles. Now all of a sudden you have people now doubting these vaccines, and even down to the whole thing around the autism. Yet again, I've worked in a research setting, so I get my gauge is a little different. I have a little bit more understanding. So I get that some people, most people don't sit around and read research journals and they don't understand what that means. It's foreign. I get that. But at the end of the day, the fact that this, you ain't known nobody that has gotten sick or died from measles tells you something. And the fact that now in these states, we are seeing this uptake, the fact that we have, a whole new, Ebola is going up in Africa, and, a whole other, like some of these rheumatic fevers and us, whatever, and we're not doing anything. And yet again, America is leaning into this side, which is, well, it's a conspiracy. You just want to get me to take a pill. And I keep telling people, the government controls your food sources and your drinking water. If they want something in your system, they can put something in your system. It's just that simple. If it's a conspiracy and they're trying to get you to take something, the government has that ability. But when you walk away from sound science, that has been proven time and time, like I said in the thing you said, it can be replicated. You can, if you have the equipment and you can go in a lab and you know somebody that you can reach out with the average person, yet again, doesn't know how to do all that, but other scientists can do that. And the fact that we have gotten away from sound science and put people in charge that are literally saying, take some cod liver oil and an aspirin and call me in the morning. Like, and people are dying. And like, we've now had 3 confirmed deaths, and these are children. This happened when he went over to Somalia. Like yet again, we're not paying attention. And when folks are dropping dead, and it's like, oops, and this is somebody who is a science denier, who has got money to be a science denier. So yeah, it gets to a point where it gets absolutely just terrifying. And in those kind of situations, like to the earlier conversation, you do try to then convince people, hey, like, I understand you might feel vaccines are bad. Like, that's part of my job at times. I'll tell people, I will have a conversation with you all day about why vaccines work and why they're important. What I'm not going to do is when you sit up here and say, well, Donald Trump said, or so-and-so said, because Robert Kennedy, his own children were vaccinated while he was sitting around peddling these same lies. So yet again, they just believe idiots. Like,
it's about identity rather than getting to the facts, right? That, their side decided to go against the vaccines in the wake of the 2020 election. And the funny thing is, of course, the vaccine hesitancy that, RFK Jr. was on the side of came from the left, right? You got to remember that he was a Democrat. And, but when it became a Republican thing, you switched to Republicans because now they believe in this vaccine hesitancy after the 2020 election, But that is, it does defy left-right politics, like this sort of conspiracy thinking. becomes a part of identity. Like on the left, it was the idea that you can be healthy beyond what the government was telling you. Like he was about, banning certain substances like the red dyes or whatever. That he was kind of behind that, and sort of truth and nutrition, things like that. There was some facts to it, but also it led into this idea of purity. And your body's a temple, and I don't want to put that poison in me. And they were not, looking at the facts, because the study that they were relying on was from someone who was they themselves trying to sell a version of a vaccine, and they created fake studies to try to discredit their competition.
Basically. I have a question for Jeffrey. Jeffrey, have you heard from the parents of the kids that died of the measles?
I mean, well, not locally, no. I mean, some of them have. Well, none of them have gone public. Actually, from what I've been reading and just from what I've heard from like some people in Texas that actually are on the ground there. No, because right now it literally is I got duped and I lost my child kind of situation. So nobody wants to put their face to that, because yet again, then it reinforces like you're essentially going to be, the jackass of the day, essentially.
Yeah, it is.
So nobody is opening up themselves to that. But behind a lot of closed doors, there is a lot of regret. I mean, like I said, when it happened in Samoa, over 200-300 kids almost died. It was pretty bad. So, it's been rough, but I agree with. Well, so what you're saying, Malcolm, is interesting, because I found myself on the flip side of what you just said. Like you said, right, left identity. So we was talking about now how they are now anti-police. And now those of us that have never liked the police are trying to defend the institution. Because I tell people that I have never had love for police. I understand, though, they serve a purpose. Yeah. And as a person that is very left-leaning, that absolutely was like, defund the police. Now I'm on the other end of this saying, oh, shit, they tearing down the FBI. What the fuck we gonna do? I understand that it has other functions. Exactly. But I agree with some things, but my thing is just like you said, it's the way that it was dismantled, and the fact that you dismantled it. For my issue is you dismantled it for one person, when those institutions historically have been unfair to Black and brown people forever, and y'all gave no fucks. But now it's, oh my God, the FBI needs to be gotten away with, and we need to get rid of the police, and they're now woke. And I'm just like, well, yeah, these are the same reasons why we had George Floyd protesting a couple of years ago. Like, police are not necessarily our friends, and I still will say that. But we need them motherfuckers. So
the profile of somebody who goes through the training to become an FBI agent is not liberal. Like, there may be some of them, I mean, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, generally speaking.
Oh, you are correct.
They're very conservative in their thoughts. I mean, hell, Hoover was like, he put bugs on MLK and every Black. I mean, they literally stumped out through their mechanisms the Black Panther Party. Like, the FBI has blood on their hands. That's just reality.
Yeah, if they didn't do it themselves, they blackmailed other people to do it.
The question is, what are the organizations saying? Are they still right leaning, or are they? Because I have checked out, y'all. I'm just telling you.
Yeah,
I mean, no, it's interesting because like some of these people that like a couple of these police unions endorsed him, which again I think is idiotic. You let go people that killed, like literally tried to kill policemen, and yet again they get a pass, and so it's interesting.
Is that?
I'm gonna move on to the next one. But what do we have in the comments and questions, real quick?
Carter says he'll take Sleepy Joe any day. Bring him back.
Amen.
So we were talking a little bit about our ability to defend our beliefs as we got older. Like it's something that I think our experiences make us more, secure in our beliefs as we get older. This is a topic I think about your, dreams that you had when you were younger. At what point do you let go of some of those dreams, or how do they get modified as we get older? I'm gonna play the video. We'll talk about it.
So they say when you have a dream or a goal, you should never stop pursuing it. Like, don't have a plan B. Don't do anything else but try to make that goal, accomplish that your dreams. So, I mean, we live in a world where not everybody's dreams has come true. Not everybody is at a job that they want to be or in a career that they truly, truly love, because you just have to take care of yourself. But my question is, like, is there a point where, like, dreams expire? Is there a point where you should stop pursuing something? Because, I mean, clearly it hasn't, like, happened yet, but I guess it's like, if you really think about it, it's just like, okay, so you had a dream when you were a kid, you had a dream, you know, saying like once you graduate high school, what you wanted to become, and you spent all that time trying to pursue it. You're in your 20s, you're now in your 30s. Like, should you stop, or should you keep going? Because you see people every day, like in a second, your life can change, but like a lot of people, that doesn't really happen for them. So like, it makes you kind of wonder, like, at what point would you or should you stop? If that makes any sense.
So
why are we in the bed? Why are we? Why are we
never seen TikTok? That's just how TikTok goes.
People make TikToks everywhere. They make them in the car.
They're walking.
Right, while they're walking, like
on the toilet.
That's nothing new.
Yeah. So, at what point do you give up on your dreams? To put it barely bluntly,
get modified. You don't necessarily give up on them.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, that's what my answer would have been, which is that I think when you're younger, your dreams are a little bit naive, and reality hits as you're pursuing it. And to me, my first idea was just when it is no longer serving you. Like, if the pursuit of the dream is actually causing you pain, if it's making you, if it's not something that you really wanted to do. Like, sometimes when you're younger, let's say very young, it's like, I want to be an astronaut. I found out that you can't be an astronaut if you're a certain height, because they don't make the suits big enough. You know, you can't do it. Nigga, you too tall to be an astronaut. Like, really? Like, yeah, you can't be an astronaut. literally, like, because you have to do fighter pilot training or whatever. You're above 6 feet tall. You can't even fit in the cockpit of those things. Like, it's true.
Yeah, those spaces are small.
They are small. You can just the space station is small. You do big, but motherfucker, you can't get it.
Right.
You got to give up on that dream. Like, you're not making a bigger space station. I'm sorry. But yeah, you can learn from that. Maybe there's something about that dream that you can carry on in something else. You know, realistically tempering it. You know, deconstruction. When they talk about religion, I think you can deconstruct a dream and get into why this dream grabbed you in the first place. A lot of times, people's dreams is just about money. So, like, if you can find a better way to make money, just go for that. Because truthfully, that's usually what it was about. It's just like, oh, that's a way to make money, so let me do that.
Right.
I mean,
or you can kind of alter your dream just a little bit. Like, you know, if you want to be, let's say you want to be a professional baseball player, and it's like, you know, your dream is to be in the big leagues, and it's like, oh, well, that may not happen. You know, maybe you find a local, you know, a smaller baseball club to be a part of, and so it's like, well, I might not be able to get to the big leagues, but you know, I can do this instead. I can be
still
more
play
local.
baseball.
Yeah, like growing up, I wanted to be a rapper and you know, an artist and a writer, but you know, I had to modify that and just sleep with them. So
my dream was to be a hammerhead porn star, so I got half of it right.
It's still not too late, friend. We trying to tell you. Like,
OnlyFans is the website.
Look, people are still breaking barriers in that department right now.
But you know, that is interesting, because like a lot of people have had a dream, like, you know, I want to be on TV or I want to be in movies and stuff like that. But we have the technology now, like you can create your own YouTube channel and be your own TV star. You can write your own shows. I've seen lots of people. A friend of the show, Portia, you know, she was in like this little rink-dink, you know, production that was on YouTube or something. But like, I mean, it's possible to do those kind of things. You just
don't sit on her show. Don't call it.
a little bit, you know, it's like, you know, it's not going to be on Netflix, but, you know, I might be able to get something on Tubi, you know.
But see, that's the funny thing is when people have those dreams about being on TV or whatever, it's not actually about being on TV. It's about being famous, right? It's about being respected and popular and, you know, whatever adulation you get. Because if it's really just about making a movie, you'd be happy with making your little rinky-dink movie that's on Vimeo or whatever, and you know you'd be happy about.
Stop calling them people stuff little. Y'all know that's the meaning. That's maybe the biggest.
I'm saying that's the thing. To someone who really wanted to do that, is not. They actually enjoy doing it. Like that was what they wanted to do.
Well, no,
but I think a lot of times people just want to do something because they have this impression of what it is to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, in the process, you realize, like, I don't really like the process of doing this. Like, this is hard.
You know,
that's what I think about when I think about like making movies and TV. Like, I love good TV. I was watching some TV the other night, and I was like, oh, I would love to like be a part, like to have something on the screen, right? But the process of making TV, I'm like, thumbs down. I don't want to be a part of that. You know, like
16-hour days,
it's not fun.
Weeks at a time. Like, yeah.
Like, I don't want to be a part of that.
Has anybody ever done a movie that it is grueling? It is crazy.
Yeah, I can't remember the actor's name, but he's playing Kingpin right now on the Daredevil series. And he was originally on the on one of those Law and Order shows.
Yeah,
yeah, he was on Criminal Intent.
Vincent
DeGruffalo,
there was a time when they were, you know, the filming schedule of that show was so rigorous that he fainted or collapsed from just exhaustion. You know, that's the reality of being on TV.
That's funny because one of our new favorite shows, Behind the Gates, my friend Tamara, you know, she's a star, and she's like, do you know how many episodes we shoot? And she's like, that hot ass wig and them.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Like, oh my god! Like, yeah,
a lot of shows nowadays don't film that many episodes, but that was back in the day. Like, you know, for network television, you know, I don't know if that was on network television, but I don't know.
Yeah, she's filming daily episodic television, so they.
That's rough.
I think they do a month in advance, maybe.
For me, it's the memorizing those lines so fast. That fast.
Oh, they never come off book. The script supervisor is right there. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like, there's no way. There is no way.
Line.
Right. It sounds. I tell you what. Now I know if it sounds halfway correct, they going with it. You know?
Yeah. But it is a rough schedule, and that's a lot of things that people don't know. And so it's funny that in the pursuit of your dream, you may discover things about it that you didn't know and you don't like, and that's okay. I mean, I think there's this idea that giving up is wrong, but like if it truly if you're giving up on something that you didn't sign up for in the first place, you know, and being honest with it and being okay with that, but not just because it's hard or that, you know, something that you have the power to change. You know, you can't change how you feel about a certain process or the way that it goes about.
When I lived in New York, Malcolm, I was an extra on this movie, and I got kicked out because I had to pee.
Yeah, that's a real thing, though.
And they were like, later, Gator. I was like, okay, well, shit, I gotta pee.
Yeah, I was, you know, I've said I've been on a few sets myself, and it's like, I have a lot more respect.
A lot.
Even if the show is bad, horrible.
And you know, I try to be kind. Now I try to be kind when the shows are bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
they don't know when they're filming it. They don't know that this is gonna suck.
Yeah. Right. They don't. And you be like, oh. You know what I mean? They tried. Look at that baby. They tried so much.
Yeah.
That's like when I have students, you know, who come in, they think they want to be a theater major, they think they want to do different things. And I don't never try to convince anyone to stay who comes to me and says, Joe, I think I want to change my major. Good for you. Good for you. Because if you found something else you want to do, it's going to make you happy, good. Now, the ones I talk to is the ones who are like, I'm scared. I want to do it, but I'm scared. Right. Like, baby, let's not make any choices in our life because of fear. Okay. Yeah, like you don't not do this. You love being here, you love doing it, girl. That's not a reason not. Fear cannot be the thing that runs your life. You're too young for that.
But Cleo, but it's like,
that's really good. I like that.
understand the vow of poverty that they have to take.
But you got to understand, yes, that there's only a certain small percentage of people who make the big bucks. But yet, also though, I like to tell them though, but if you're good and you do the training, you do the work, there are plenty of people who have regular lives and families as artists who work regional. And or they do small TV things here and there, and they're not nobody whose names but they're able to have insurance and have a life.
Yeah,
but you can't be lazy though. You can't be lazy.
I'll tell you one thing that could I don't know if this would be inspirational or demotivational. Is find these famous film stars who were in stupid ass commercials. I think I saw one.
They did it.
Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
He was in this stupid ass commercial because he was acting as a kid, but he was doing some shit about like some tacos. He's like, I want these tacos. They're so good.
Oh my!
You know what I'm saying? Like it was so bad. It was so cringy. I'm just saying, you know what? Yeah. Now he's got an Oscar and he's fucking,
exactly
divorced from J-Lo. There you go.
Well, no, because they did like Jodie Foster. She started off as the sunscreen baby when she was 3.
Oh yeah.
I think it was the Emmys that you were talking about. They kind of went back in actors' lives, like Harrison.
I think I saw mine on TikTok, but whatever. I'm just saying that they're funny. But I don't know if they're motivational or demotivational, but the idea that there is hard work, and if you actually enjoy the work, that's what'll get you through.
Yeah, friend of the show and favorite nipple target of John, Gavin. He creates a hard-working actor. Just works.
Yeah,
just works. And he just got his big break at what 50. I shouldn't tell. Well,
yeah, he don't want to. But you can tell that he's a. I don't know. I don't know him like you do, but I get the feeling that he just enjoys it.
He does.
Yeah,
he does. And that's the whole thing. But you just don't know. Even while he's working on Broadway, now he's in the UK because they're going to take the show to the UK because they ended in New York. They're going to take it to the UK. He's still auditioning every day. Soap commercial, dirt commercial.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
He called me at 3 o'clock in the morning. He was like, "Greg, can you help me run these lines?" Not at 3 o'clock in the morning. I cannot.
That's what you got to do, man. Like you got to really want it.
I understand that, but your homie is in the bed. You got to call somebody like security or some shit.
I got one more. Actually, I think maybe we ran out of time. I was going to do one more. Let's do our comments and questions, and then
we just got on that.
You don't have any more comments.
Okay, well, maybe we could do this call from the Savage Love Cast. We might have to talk about it after.
Rats.
Because I'd love doing breaking it up a little bit. Here we go. This is a call.
Hey, Dan, I'm a heterosexual woman in my early 30s, and I just called off my wedding because I wanted to fuck all the time, and he never wanted to. The first 18 months of our relationship, our sex life was super frequent and super awesome, and as soon as that honeymoon phase ended, I went from 100 to 95, and he went from 100 to let's be roommates. So as I move forward looking for another relationship, I know it's super important to me to be extremely clear and upfront and blunt about what an awesome sex life looks like to me, and how important it is to me that I have an awesome sex life within my relationship. And I'm not squeamish about talking about this stuff. I'm very open, but I don't know how to convey the importance of sex in my life without creating a bunch of pressure around what could be an awesome sexual connection with someone. I'm afraid that by placing that much emphasis on it, I will destroy what could have been a great sexual connection. So I'd love some advice there. And then the other problem that I'm running into is I've talked to many people now about like sexual frequency. What does your ideal sex life look like? And when I talk to women, I get a whole diverse set of answers. And when I have talked to men, whether it be in the context of friendship or a potential partner, I am getting the same cultural narrative spit back at me every single time about how they want to fuck all the time and they love sex and sex is so important to them and all this. And I know that's just not true for 100% of men. I just called off a wedding. I know that shit's not true for 100% of men, but I don't know how to get to the truth.
Your first mistake is trying to get the truth out of a man. That ain't never gonna happen. That's your first mistake right there.
And she sounds like a person that talks a lot. Like, is that what's killing the libido?
Yes, Becky, shut up.
Right. That was exhausting just listening to her.
I think for something, Jeffrey. I think she.
Oh god. Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, he could have just got tired.
Cock in that mouth instead of talking so much.
Right.
A little more sucky, a little less talky.
That's a good point, though. Like, I don't know how long their engagement was, but they, I guess she called off a wedding, so that meant they were affianced.
I think the thing that's going on here is that straight men do love the fuck or whatever, blah blah blah. But what they love more than just fucking, they love the fuck strange pussy. That's what they love. And so she's got to figure out how to find her. Yeah, she got some wigs. She gonna have to figure out a way to get what she wants, by also giving him what he innately tends to want, which is strange pussy.
Go get that 30-inch bust down, you know. Get that bust down, girl. Put that,
She could cut a little landing strip on it. Maybe that's what they do.
You know what? Not a landing strip.
Ball coochie. I hate balls.
Oh no.
Yeah, ball coochie, hair coochies, landing strips. I've seen Christmas tree coochie. She can do a whole lot of things. That would make it.
All right, go to bed. Go to bed right now.
She might have to just get into polyamory. Is what she might have to do.
She already is. She already said she was talking to guys, whether it was friends or potential partners.
No, I think that's the second part of the question, was that men are just being dishonest about it.
Right. She's a one-man woman, but I think for the kind of sex she wants to have, she needs to probably be with like 3 dudes. Like that she goes between, you know what I mean?
Hope that she got a white liver.
Hot rifle. That's the thing, though. There are guys who like to role play this idea that I'm going to force you to have sex with my friends or some other dude online, and they sit back and watch it. They call it hot wifing. Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to talk a little bit more about that over on Patreon. If you want to support Male Media Mind, go to patreon.com/Male Media Mind. I tried to break up that call. I'm going to have Dan's response, but he had a guest on, so actually his guest responds to the question. But before we go,
I got a question for Becky. Do she like niggles?
I love that question. We don't know. It sounded very white, though. It did sound very white. But anyway, I got some funny videos. I hope that they're funny. We'll see. Okay, animals that can't walk yet. This shit is just—that's
cruel.
I love watching it. Poor little giraffe.
Just lay down, baby. Don't lay down, baby. Just lay down.
Right.
I'll learn how to walk eventually. There you go.
Oh.
Once he got that booty licked, he got up.
Not the line.
This is where you know you got I can't understand why people have big cats. I mean, they're cool, but...
Aí, ó, o chapéu do cara, irmão. Só em Ilhéus aqui na Bahia que tu vê essas coisas. Não é chapéu, é barraca.
All of the queen.
What is this?
It's like, I guess, the insect versus the
egg.
The egg, yeah.
Oh no, this bitch.
I said I do all kinds of animals. I never did bugs. Some people love bugs. I don't know. I can't do bugs. That big ass bug. I can't.
Can't get rid of.
Yeah, I'll just be smashed.
I'd be like, bitch, where you get on from? I'd be like, bitch, where you get on from, bro?
I don't know.
Hell no. Popular. Oh.
You literally standing in it. There you go.
Losses to the neck, but now I'm trophied up. I'm saying like bing, bop, boom, 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 bop, bam. The type of shit I'm on, you wouldn't understand. The type of skits I'm on, you wouldn't understand.
I love yoga. This is the perfect example of ain't nothing open but legs past 2 a.m. This nigga had you crash out. He need discipline. He ready to get put through the sheets. Fuck. What's up with his feet? He got jaundice or something? Oh, the color purple ass feet. Ugh.
I wanna hear you say, well done. Well done. I wanna hear you say, well done. Well done.
That's the weirdest exercise ever.
What the?
He's trying to break someone's window. That's the reality of trying to bust someone's windows.
Hey, nigga.
Not hey, nigga.
We going down this road.
Oh, we're just saying gay birds. It did occur to me that I had the flamingos on last week. I was just like, there are more gay birds.
Yes.
Peacocks, definitely gay. I didn't realize that those are the males with the tail feathers.
Mm-hmm.
So gay. That's so gay.
Let me see your check a tail fella.
The males have to do that because they're trying to attract females. So yes, animal world, it's the men that get to be fabulous.
I mean, the flamingos. Come on now.
All the birds are
not a clique of gays. I don't know what it is.
All the birds are Liberace.
Flamingos are definitely gay. I got accosted by one on Aruba.
And they are mean as fuck. They are mean as fuck.
I said, Malcolm, I got some hilarious videos. Animals that can't walk yet. You and that sense of humor, Malcolm.
I love you, bro. I can see something else.
Make sure to thank you everyone for joining, sticking around to the end. Make sure to come back tomorrow for the Diggler Digest. All the characters, all the tea shall be spilt.
All the wigs.
I love the wigs, yes.
Make sure to come back on Saturday afternoon for the Saturday sit down. Get all of your recaps, your sus box on the takes on what's going on.
I'm gonna say this again, Mark, when we have a full audience. Listen, if it's not about you, don't get offended because it sounds like something that you did.
Right.
So Devon is out now. He's got a death in the family, so he'll be back soon. But we will have a recap, I guess, or a replay on Sunday at 5. Make sure to come back Tuesday for the swag suite. All the what his mama said, what the straights are doing. Tech Tuesdays. Who knows? But it's always fun. And of course, you can follow John at the Double J Chronicles. And of course, I got my partner for Fridays now on the all your
you
podcasts.
changed it. If I look at you,
I did change it. Yeah. Also, if you are a member of the on the Patreon, we're going to finish up The Day God Saw Me as Black. I got a new book, which I'm going to hopefully finish this week, and I will have it ready. I have to know how it ends before I recommend it, but it's really good so far. But yeah, it'd be great to read some books with you guys. So become a patron. We're going to go to Patreon now. To become a supporter, go to patreon.com/MaleMediaMind. We'll catch you on the other side. Let me find
for sure.
Find the video. When I got I'm zooming in so much I can't find it.